Hey everyone, this is Leanne from Of Love and Shiplap and the founder of Sub That Tutorials and More. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss out on any new videos, and check the video description for a link to the Sub That Learning Library app. Inside of our mobile/web app, you can access all of our free tutorials in our neatly organized content libraries, as well as subscribe for access to exclusive content, community, and courses. In this tutorial, I am going to be showing you how to engrave slate using the Flux Beambox 2 55-watt CO2 laser. Specifically today, we're going to be doing a slate serving tray with handles from Johnson's Plastics Plus. Now, slate is a laser-friendly material. If you do have a CO2 laser, the settings might just vary depending on which type of laser that you have. If you are someone who is considering getting a laser, then this is just one of the many materials that you can create with using your Flux Beambox 2 55-watt CO2 laser. Be sure to check the laser tutorial section in the Sub That Learning Library app, where I've broken down the different types of lasers that are on the market and their capabilities so that you can make the best decision for you. Now, slate is a pretty popular type of substrate that you can be working with a laser because it engraves absolutely beautifully, and it can be used for a variety of different things. While we're doing a serving tray today, things that are very popular include memorial markers, whether you want to have something like in your yard for a pet memorial or a family memorial, or if you want to have something that you can place at a grave site. It's also popular for use with something like coasters. People really love to engrave photos and like sketchwork into slate as well. There are so many options. The sky is the limit. It's just one of those items that is absolutely stunning when it is done. So I can't wait to give you a look at what we're going to do today with our slate serving tray. Let's go ahead and turn things around and get started.
Here is a look at the Slate serving tray from Johnson's Plastics Plus. It comes in this great box, which is going to be very helpful when it comes to shipping this item after you have engraved it. We have our handles, the screws attached there at the bottom, makes this nice and easy to assemble after we've done our engraving. And let's go ahead and pull out this large piece of slate out of our bubble wrap. This is a really nice quality slate. It's pretty heavy duty. It's definitely going to make a good serving tray. Now, the first thing we want to do before we engrave slate is go ahead and wipe it down with some isopropyl alcohol. I'm just going to put some of this on a washcloth. You can really use just any kind of cloth, and soak it generously and then just wipe it across your slate. The goal is to get any debris off of your slate. This includes little pieces of the slate itself, like little flakes of it that might have broken loose during transport. Now, this is going to dry really quickly, so it's not like there's a big wait time. And while that's going on, we need to get our measurements. Now, I already have the overall measurements because they're on the box, but what I need to measure is where I want my design. So I'm measuring in between where the handles are going to go, and that's giving me 9.5 inches or 241.3 millimeters. And then I want to get a good idea of my top space as well, but I'm not trying to factor in the edges. I'm just trying to have that middle space. So we've got 11 inches for that, or 279.4 millimeters. Now, I have already done a test piece, a materials test for my slate, so I have some settings ready to go. Here's just what I did. I did it on a coaster. I had an extra coaster, slate coasters in my house that I've had for years, so I just grabbed one and did a materials test. Let's go ahead and pop this into our laser. All right, over here at Bryant, we're going to place our slate onto the honeycomb inside of the bed of our laser. And we do need to go through our normal autofocus settings. I already have the peg for my laser down for the autofocus. So we're just going to pop over to our little control panel on our laser and go ahead and adjust this a little bit. Now, I think I've got this pretty close to the right height, so I'm just going to use my arrow keys to move this over top. And then we can tap the autofocus function. That's our little peg, so that's what it's going to look like if it's up. And where we want it when we do our autofocus is down. It's got a little spring action in there, so let's give me to pull it down here. There we go. So when it's down like that, that's gonna give the laser and the camera there what it needs to autofocus. So you just tap the AF icon and it's gonna automatically do the focusing. And once it says it's good to go, we just raise that peg back up so that it's put back in its little home, and we close the lid to our laser, and we're ready to pop into Beam Studio and set up our design. Next, we're going to go ahead and open up Beam Studio. Beam Studio is the software that comes with your Flux Beambox 2 laser engraver and cutter. This studio allows you to set up your design for engraving and cutting all types of materials that are suitable for this laser, and it gives you a variety of basic tools and functions for doing some editing and compilation of different types of designs. Now, depending on what type of projects you might do, you may use a lot of these features or only use some. There are many different programs which you can use with laser engraver and cutter, but ultimately this program is going to be the one that you come to when it comes time to send it off to the machine. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so it's easier for you guys to see. And scroll on up here. Okay, if you haven't seen our introduction video, please be sure to go and take some time to look over that. I did cover the interface a bit more in depth there, and I will always show you different types of tools and functions that are within this software when it is applicable to the projects we are working on. My go-to when it comes to actually designing any type of design from the ground up is always going to be Affinity Designer. And if you are someone who intends on doing a lot of photo projects like photo engraving on slate and wood, then you are probably going to like a program like Lightburn because of all of the features that it has for photo editing specific purposes. For today, I'm using a design that I purchased off of Etsy, so we don't really need anything extra special. We're just going to import our design and get our boundary boxes in so we can have everything centered, and then we'll scan our bed so we have an image and to be able to line things up. We're going to start by clicking on that little picture icon in your left sidebar, and it's going to open up your File Explorer. I downloaded this bundle of charcuterie designs from Etsy, and I'm going to just choose the SVG version of the one I liked the most. Now, because we are engraving, you could use a PNG or an SVG. Both are suitable for engraving, but anytime you're cutting, it does need to be an SVG file. SVG files are always the preferred because they have the best scalability and they don't have any hindrances to their resolution. So I'm going to select that SVG layer, and it's going to give me this little pop-up. We're going to click OK, and it will import my design. You can see right at the top it does tell me that it is an SVG object. Now I am just going to click and drag to make this a little bit bigger so we can see it and move it into the center of my space. Now I want to use my rectangle tool and create two separate rectangles. The first is going to be the measurements of the total substrate based on what we had seen written on the box, which was 9.84 inches by 13.78 inches. And then the second one is going to be that main design space that we measured. So the space that was in between the handles and then the top to bottom edges before it kind of, has the jaggedy part. So to do that, you will select your rectangle tool and just click and drag across. Then we're going to come to the right sidebar in the top and click that control panel icon. This gives us all of our features for modifying this particular layer. Underneath my width and height, I need to adjust the measurements to what we have. This is in millimeters because I have found in using this laser that having the millimeter settings when it comes to the actual speed makes a lot more sense and is a lot easier to navigate information, especially if you're trying to try something new and you're looking at different sources online and trying to find a good middle ground to test out. So I've been keeping this interface in millimeters. I know that plenty of us who are in America are not used to using millimeters. I promise it's not so bad. You can easily convert your inches to millimeters on Google if you don't want to do the math. So for our height of 9.84 inches, that is going to be 249.94 millimeters. And for our width of 13.78 inches, that's going to be 350.01 millimeters. All right, and we can just lock that so it's in place. That's just going to lock the aspect ratio so that we don't accidentally resize it disproportionately. Next, I'm going to select the rectangle tool again and repeat the process with my other set of measurements. So this was the space that was in between our handlebars and then the top to bottom. So for that, the height is going to be 9.5 inches, which was 241.3 millimeters. And then our width is going to be 11 inches, which was 279.4 millimeters. Now we're just going to click and drag our mouse across all of those layers, and with multiple objects selected, we are going to align everything center. We're doing the vertical and horizontal. Sorry, lost my words there. Next, we want to come to our actual design layer, and we need to shrink this on down. And I'm just going to shrink it so that it's right at the edges of that inner box. Now, it's always good to do your due diligence, so I'm going to click and drag again and then just double check to make sure everything is nice and centered. There we go. So now that we have everything centered and sized correctly, we're going to do the scan of our bed so that we can line this up. To do that, you want to click on the camera icon in the top left. Now I did go ahead and put some 1/4 inch thick plywood underneath our slate so that it would be easier to see when we scan the image bed. The black of the slate with the black of the honeycomb and just the black of the inside of the laser in general was a little challenging to see. So this is just a little hack for you. You can always put a piece of cardboard underneath a substrate or a piece of wood like this. Because the laser is not going to be cutting through the slate, it's not going to impact that wood. It's just going to work for this purpose. Now, I use this trick all the time now that I have this laser. If I find that something is hard to see, you can also use thin wood like this to create templates and jigs, and I have found that to be just such a lifesaver when it comes to different types of projects, both with the laser and with sublimation. So we're going to let it get all scanned in, and then we'll be able to use that outer box that we created as our guide to make sure this is totally centered across our substrate. I always try and get my substrate as straight as possible in the laser as I can, but you know, we're all just doing our best here. So once everything is scanned and it looks good, you can go ahead and click that End Preview button and then click and drag across all of those layers again so they're selected, and we're going to line them up. So my goal here is that that outer box that we created is lining up everywhere with those edges. So we've got our top and bottom edges, we've got our side to side, and we are trying to have this as centered as possible. I think we've done pretty good. I don't think it could get any better. We always got to remember that the camera is not 100% dead on. It's very close, but I do notice sometimes like a slight angle, I think because of how it scans. That's why having these boundary boxes really helps you make sure things are lined up. So I think that is good. We want to go ahead and delete those boxes that are on the outside, because we're not trying to have those cut on here. They were just for our own reference. So this is all that's going to be cut, and it should be centered right on in there. We can't actually see the little holes, you know, where the handles go, but it should be centered right perfectly on our slate tray. So now that we have everything set up here in the center, we want to come back to that layers panel, and we want to choose our settings down in this parameter space. I did that test slate, which I showed you at the beginning, so I have already saved that preset right in here, and I can just go ahead and select that. It is a power of 30% and a speed of 400 millimeters per second. Now, I didn't really see any substantial difference with increased speed, and so I'm going with the 400 because you always want to keep in mind that everything you're doing with your laser is wear and tear on your machine. So doing something at a higher power or a faster speed is not inherently better if the results are the same. It's better to find the good middle ground so that you can retain the life of your laser as long as possible. So I already have this setting set, and those settings will be below this video. Then we can click on that start work, and it's going to analyze our design and determine the toolpath and give us an estimation. So it's going to take 17 minutes for this to go ahead and process. We can click start and it will get started. All right, so we have our finished engraved slate, and honestly, it looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down again with the isopropyl alcohol, just generously applied to a washcloth. And this is just going to get any of that dust from the engraving off of it and just help really make our design pop on our slate. Now, this is not a deep engraving. It's like a nice surface engraving. And once we clean off all this debris, it's going to look really good with the contrast between the engraving and the black. All right, I'm going to get my handles together. Sorry, it's a little noisy. All right, we're going to go ahead and just unscrew the screws that are already in there. And then we can just line this up with the holes. I mean, putting the handles in is pretty straightforward. We're going to line it up. We're going to grab our screws. It's a little easier if you put the screw in first and then give it a little twist around to kind of have one in place, and then the other one will line right up. These are pretty small. You can use a screwdriver for these. I'm just using a regular flathead. A Phillips head would work better, but I did not have one readily available. So we're just doing the flathead for these. It does have the line in it. It's kind of hard for you guys to see, but it does have the line in it. So you want to make sure it's nice and tight. And of course, make sure our handle is flush in the process. We don't want our handles to be awkward. All right, I'm just giving these a little tightening to make sure they're nice and tight. And making sure my handle is completely flush. And then we will be good to do the other one. Use the correct screwdriver so that it doesn't end up taking you an extra minute to be able to put these on. All right, there we go. Now let's grab our other one. I'm going to go ahead and drop my screws right in. Then hold those in place and stick my handle on. Again, I'm trying to hold the handle flush while I first do that initial screw in of the screws. You know, it's hard to see with the camera. The slate tray is pretty big. adjust you guys up a little bit. You want to try and get a few thread turns in there, and then go ahead and tighten it. Now, I really love the overall look of these trays. It's very stylish. Slate is very popular right now for different types of home decor, whether it's the photo printed slates or something that's engraved. People really like that it's very low maintenance. You know, this is something that you don't have to worry about scratching or breaking. It's very durable, and being able to personalize it with your own laser engraved design is just an added benefit. So an item like this I would sell as itself, but you could also sell it as part of a gift set that maybe is charcuterie board themed. Now, I did go with the charcuterie design today, but you could of course put monograms. You could just put different types of fruit, bread, whatever elements on here. I mean, there's a lot of options. This was just one that I really liked and thought would be perfect. The links for everything we used today are below the video. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.